The Alaska wilderness is no stranger to 32-year-old Tyler Johnson, who has spent most of his life hiking and hunting in the Alaskan backcountry, which is of course also bear country. As the son of an Alaska trooper who was formerly a wildlife officer, Tyler had prepared for the possibility of confronting an aggressive bear while on one of his trips. It was a knowledge set that would be tested while Tyler and his dad Chris were on a hunting trip in August 2024. While traveling off-trail, Tyler and his father startled a brown bear concealed in tall grass. And as startled grizzlies are apt to do, the bear charged. First towards Tyler's dad, before suddenly turning and attacking Tyler, who drew his 10mm pistol and fired 7 shots into the bear while it was on top of him. But in addition to mortally wounding the bear, Tyler accidentally shot himself in the leg.
It went straight through my leg.
After the bear had been dealt with, the two used their inReach satellite SOS to call for help, and Tyler was subsequently rescued and flown via helicopter to a local hospital, where he received treatment for his injuries before being released that same evening. If you followed the news coverage, that's Tyler's story in a nutshell, but absent the critical life-saving lessons neglected by journalists, internet commentators, and in some cases, Tyler's own accounts. So let's spend a few well-deserved minutes unpacking what no one is telling you about Tyler's experience. Most news reports are going to focus on the fact that Tyler and his dad are seasoned hunters and hikers and wrongly conflate their survival with experience. Ultimately, years of experience, the titles of hiker or hunter, even one's profession, are meaningless. The only true indicator of competence is behavior. Your experience won't save you, but your decision-making, mixed with a little luck, just might. We'll discuss the role luck played in Tyler's story in a few minutes, but let's start with Tyler and his dad. There is no doubt Tyler and his dad Chris were far better prepared than most. They were traveling together. Both were carrying a deterrent. They had a satellite SOS system and a trauma kit.
Yeah.
These steps alone put Tyler and his dad into a higher survival bracket than most people who get attacked by a bear. Not only was there someone there to intervene when the bear attacked, but there were 2 people to attend to injuries, communicate with emergency responders, and monitor Tyler's status. If you've listened to Tyler discuss the attack, it's clear that his dad was critical to both his survival and his state of mind, which is likely the reason Tyler seems relatively calm in the video he shot shortly after the attack occurred. If anyone ever attempts to tell you that a gun is the best defense in bear country, or that bear spray is the best defense in bear country, just stare at them like their brain is leaking out of their nose, and then tell them to stop offering people backcountry advice.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Already, people are swooning over Tyler's experience and the fact that he and his dad were both packing 10mm pistols, falsely believing that Tyler's story is validation for all of 10mm fanboydom. It's not, and we'll discuss why in just a minute. Hands down, the absolute best defense is traveling with responsible, knowledgeable companions. Nothing, and I do mean nothing, even comes close. Now, let's quickly discuss some details from Tyler's experience that have not gotten the attention that they deserve. First, if you've been watching my other bear attack analysis videos, you know that 2 or more people who stand their ground during a bear charge are almost guaranteed to avoid injury. And from what Tyler and his father have shared, they both seem to have stood their ground. So why then did the bear attack Tyler? Tyler gives us a few clues. 15 yards. That is the only concrete number I've gotten from Tyler's accounts. He and his dad were following a flagged path off-trail through some heavy brush before coming to an incline which Tyler describes as approximately 15 yards in length. In his account, he places himself at the bottom of that incline and his dad at the top in a grassy clearing just before the attack occurred. Now, it's not clear if that 15-yard distance changed before the attack, but from Tyler's account, there was some amount of distance between him and his dad when his dad first encountered and was subsequently charged by the bear. Tyler's dad responded by standing his ground and yelling, "Hey, hey, hey," at the bear, which then halted before turning towards Tyler. Now, Tyler has stated that he thinks the bear was attempting to flee down the same path that Tyler and his dad were using, and that Tyler was blocking the bear's escape. And I think that's a very astute observation. In that environment, it's certain that wildlife would use the same corridors that Tyler and his dad were using. But this also created a very dangerous situation, where the three parties had originally been arranged in a triangle. Once the bear decided to not attack Chris and subsequently turned and ran towards Tyler, the bear was effectively surrounded. If you want to stress out a bear, then cut off its escape route. The other clear contributing environmental factor was the brush and tall grass. Not only did the brush represent a barrier to the bear's escape, but it also certainly concealed both Tyler and Chris's approach. Even the largest bears on Earth typically only view the world from a height of a little over 3 feet. The bear almost certainly could not see Tyler until it was charging directly at him. To get the most benefit from traveling in a group, people need to be close together. If Tyler and his dad were approximately 15 yards apart, as Tyler's recounting suggests, they were too far apart to get much preventative benefit from traveling together. And this is not the first time something like this has happened. In 2011, a group of 7 teenagers were hiking down a brushy draw in Alaska when student 1, the student at the head of the line, a 17-year-old boy, startled a grizzly bear in thick cover. His view of the bear was so obstructed that he first mistook it as a hay bale. But as soon as he realized that encountering a hay bale in the Alaskan wilds was impossible, he immediately recognized the furry mass as a grizzly bear. Upon having that revelation, he yelled "Bear!" to warn everyone in the group. The bear responded by charging the boy at the head of the line, quote, flattening him upon impact. That's when the other students scattered. Before it was over, the bear would injure 4 of the 7, 2 of them seriously. Tyler and his dad rightly stood their ground, and they deployed their deterrence, so that's where the similarity between the two attacks ends. But suffice it to say, if you are in heavy cover, you are well served to stay close together, stand your ground, and deploy an effective deterrent if charged by a bear. Now, Tyler does not mention any effort on his part to yell at the bear and scare it away, so I'm going to assume that he first went for his deterrent, which is exactly what he should have done, and more evidence that Tyler and his dad were better prepared than most. Yelling at a charging bear is often enough to prevent an attack, but it's also not a guarantee, so you want to make sure that you have a means to defend yourself just in case. But as Tyler found out, readying your deterrent is not a simple grab and fire proposition. At first, Tyler says he failed retrieving his pistol, citing a strap on his holster which he struggled to push out of the way with his thumb. And that cost him 1 or 2 precious seconds. By the time he retrieved his pistol, the bear had closed the distance and was lunging toward him, knocking him to the ground and biting his quad and calf. Now, it's worth noting that bears often go for the head and neck. And while it may seem strange, he was lucky the bear went for his legs first. This is just one of multiple strokes of luck which worked to Tyler's benefit and allowed him to defend himself while he was being attacked. Simultaneously, Tyler's dad took, quote, a different angle, ostensibly positioning himself to the side in an attempt to avoid shooting Tyler, and, quote, unloaded his Glock 40 into the bear. Amongst the hail of gunfire, the bear fell over. Tyler then shuffled backwards and his dad moved in to dispatch the bear once and for all. For Tyler and Chris, it was a happy ending. Father and son had worked together and defended themselves from a serious threat. But their story, like many before, has quickly become fuel for dangerous bear attack fan fiction. If you've watched my bear safety videos, you know that I also carry a 10mm pistol in bear country. But please do not construe my use of a 10mm pistol or Tyler's or his dad's use of a 10mm pistol as evidence that you should rely on a 10mm pistol or any gun for that matter. Here's what has been painfully neglected in the retelling of Tyler's story. Had the bullet struck his leg 1 or 2 inches more toward the center, he would have pulverized his femur, especially if using the heavy loads favored for bear defense. Such a wound would have likely ruptured or severed his femoral artery, and even if he was able to sufficiently slow blood loss, his leg would have been so damaged that he would have almost certainly needed to have it amputated near the hip. This is a caution which must be shared. Now, from what I've been able to glean from Tyler's interviews and statements, it does not sound like he and his father had access to bear spray. In one interview, Tyler says that he doesn't want to speculate on whether bear spray would have worked, before speculating and repeating a popular falsehood that bear spray is more appropriate during a bluff charge. To be clear, bear spray has a stellar record of halting not just charges, but full-on attacks. But that fact has not stopped dangerous misinformation from deceiving even the most experienced outdoorsman. Naturally, you use the deterrent you have. In Tyler's case, both he and his dad chose 10mm pistols, and succeeded. But it is absolutely essential that we rein in the action hero fantasies. Not only was Tyler an inch or two from killing himself or losing his leg, but with how this encounter unfolded, he could have easily killed or seriously wounded his dad and still had a pissed off bear to contend with. For a little perspective, in 1871, when Wild Bill Hickok was serving as a U.S. Marshal in Kansas, he was involved in a chaotic gunfight on the streets of Abilene, during which he accidentally shot and killed Mike Williams, his own deputy who was rushing to his aid. The point is this: if one of the most famous and revered gunslingers in history could accidentally shoot the wrong person in a chaotic struggle, you'd better believe that the rest of us could make the same mistake. In fact, many backcountry gun users do make the same mistake. It has never been more important to clearly discern the line between reality and dangerous fantasy. It absolutely must be said, frantically firing any gun at a bear is an extremely risky roll of the dice. Tyler won that roll, but just barely. Now, were I in Tyler's position and had access to my 10mm pistol and nothing else, I would have similarly drawn my pistol and used it as he did. But there are at least 3 things that I would do to avoid that desperate and extremely hazardous situation in the first place. First, I would have carried my bear spray in my dominant hand while traveling through heavy brush and tall grass. I have personally encountered a grizzly on a kill covertly hidden in tall grass, almost exactly as Tyler and his dad did. It taught me that these large animals can easily be concealed by relatively low cover. And if charged, I wouldn't want to lose even a second trying to retrieve my deterrent. More than that, the circumstances that culminated in Tyler's attack were pretty much tailor-made for bear spray. Based on Tyler's video, it was a pretty calm day with little to no wind. And even with moderate wind, bear spray is extremely effective, particularly in well-trained hands. Now, I know that a lot of people are concerned about, quote, blowback. I've had bear spray in my eyes, and yeah, it really sucks. But I'll take rinsing my eyes out over treating a gunshot wound any day of the week and in any kind of weather. More than that, unlike a gun, you can responsibly and actively carry bear spray without endangering yourself or your companions, as a precaution when visibility is limited. There is no intelligent reason to not carry bear spray, especially in brown bear country. Let's not also neglect the fact that in Alaska, if you shoot a bear in self-defense, you are required by law to remove the head, claws, and pelt and turn them over to wildlife managers. I'm not sure if Tyler's dad stayed behind to field dress the bear after the fact, but that's one heck of a chore to add on to your must-dos, especially if someone's been injured. Avoiding an attack is always best, and given the fact that Chris was able to discourage the bear on his own, had Tyler and Chris been close together, they would have easily scared the bear off without injury to anyone. Standing immediately next to each other is also the ideal posture when deploying any deterrent, which is the second takeaway from Tyler and Chris's experience. Travel close together in bear country. The more you're spread out, the more likely you are to have a problem if someone encounters a bear. Third, Tyler and his dad deserve major credit for their response, particularly for packing a trauma kit and satellite SOS. You're really isolated in the backcountry, and otherwise minor injuries can quickly become a death sentence if you're not prepared. Now, while Tyler had access to at least one tourniquet and improvised another, imagine how desperate his situation would have been if his gunshot wound had been more serious. If you travel in bear country, multiple tourniquets and the knowledge of how and when to use them are essential. Tyler was quite literally an inch or two away from becoming a cautionary tale rather than a folk hero. Unfortunately, the internet excels at mutating random circumstance, pure luck, and hazardous reporting into dangerous campfire mythology. Perhaps the most famous case in recent years is that of Todd Orr, whose experience is still being used by the uninformed to argue that bear spray doesn't work. If you want to skip the internet's bull, then I invite you to watch my interview with Todd, linked here. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a great deal that you can and should learn from Tyler and his experience.
Man, he came out quick. So fast.
He and his dad both made it home to their loved ones in one piece, at least in part because of the decisions they made. But please, do not confuse a frantic firefight and an extremely lucky outcome as evidence that you should emulate everything from their story. Without the right knowledge and skill base, gun users are a serious threat to themselves and others. If you want to learn how to responsibly and effectively deploy both bear spray and a firearm, then make sure to watch my video on how to stop a charging bear, where I again partner with Todd Orr to rate the internet's best and worst bear attack drills. I am so relieved that Tyler appears to be doing well, and I want to thank him and his dad for sharing their story so that the rest of us can learn from it. If you want instant access to the absolute best bear safety resources and much more, make sure to subscribe to At Home and Wild Spaces. And let me know, did I miss something in my analysis of Tyler's experience? Please share your thoughts in the comments and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, this is Mike, reminding you to seek out resources that tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.